Deborah Ann Woll just showed us the best way to introduce someone to Dungeons & Dragons by teaching the Punisher himself.
You want to play D&D?
I mean, I'll try. I mean, what do you think I'd be able to do it?
Literally right now.
Sure.
There are a lot of newcomers to D&D in the last few years as the beloved TTRPG continues to push itself more into the public eye. And with a lot of newcomers, there creates the need for dungeon masters to introduce the game to them in a way that will stick. It's a daunting task for DMs, and often newcomers are too intimidated to dedicate the time to learning the game. Almost no one wants to be sat at a table going through a character sheet column by column with their DM and learning the rules. They want to actually play the game. One of the newcomers to D&D is the Punisher himself, Jon Bernthal, who has officially been introduced to the TTRPG by the incredible Deborah Ann Woll, who has shown time and time again that she knows what she's doing at the head of the table.
I think it's so fun when you're a squishy little 5th level character and you're fighting a frickin' Death Knight.
On Bernthal's Real Ones podcast, Woll gives Bernthal a basic introduction to the game's premise, and while he's intrigued, it's clear there's some trepidation from the actor as to whether or not learning D&D is something that he can handle. Thankfully, Woll actually has the perfect way to introduce D&D to him, by showing him why the game is so great, not by telling him.
You've got a bow strapped to your back, a sword and a dagger at your hilt, right? So you're walking through the woods. It's dark, it's at night. Almost no moonlight is coming through. You hear a crack off in the distance. Something large stepped on a branch. What would you do?
First thing, how far away is the crack?
Give me a perception check.
To give her former Daredevil and Punisher co-star an introduction to the game, she sets a straightforward scene, the likes of which many D&D players have experienced before in their own sessions. Bernthal is traveling through the woods, a bow on his back, a sword and dagger at his belt, and barely any moonlight peeking through the trees to guide his path. His adventure is halted as he hears a crack in the distance. When prompted with the interruption, Bernthal does what every new and veteran D&D player should do. He asks for clarification so he knows exactly what he's getting into. Once he eagerly questions how far away the sound is coming from, it spirals into the sharing of various aspects of D&D gameplay, settings, creatures, and lore. And it's obvious that the route Woll has taken to introduce Bernthal to D&D has him excited and intrigued.
Based on your character sheet that you've created, you're going to be good and bad at different things.
Who I create the sheet?
You could, or I could, or you could get a pre-made sheet,
Why
that
don't
kind
you
of
just
thing.
make your sheet that you're great at everything?
Because, if you're a wizard who's in school studying books to learn magic, you're probably not spending that much time in the gym. Versus if you're, a knight who goes out and slays dragons, maybe you're socially awkward and don't know how to talk to people, so your
So
charisma
is it within your
status
interest to not be great at everything?
You want flaws. Like one of my favorite characters, my friend Tommy played Viros. He was a prince. And the idea was that he was very, he'd been kind of pampered his whole life, and everyone always laughed at all his jokes and said that he was wonderful and handsome. But he's actually not that funny, and he's not that handsome. He just has been sheltered. So when he got out in the world and started investigating, he thinks that he's this charming, suave individual, but his stats, his literal charisma stats are very low. So he would fail constantly, and part of his story throughout the campaign was him learning that he wasn't as charming as he thought he was. So flaws are great. Flaws make good story.
All of this leads to Bernthal inquiring as to the goal of D&D. He asks if it's a game that players set out to win, to which Woll has the perfect response that encompasses the ultimate spirit of D&D.
But is the goal to win?
No.
What's the goal?
There is no goal to tell a great story.
Tell a great story.
I'm personally definitely adopting this as my method for introducing D&D to newbies in the future because I think it's just such an approachable and most importantly fun way to get newcomers excited about the game. Let us know if you're going to use Deborah Ann Woll's trick to introducing D&D to your own friend groups in the comments, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.